I am going to practice some faces today with watercolor. I'm going to be using the Derwent watercolor metallic paint that I did a video on yesterday. I'm not sure how to say these. Milang, I guess, maybe. Watercolor paints and just some random watercolor paints that I have that I keep in my palette. A little bit messy. So I'm going to be using these watercolors. I'm going to be using Strathmore watercolor paper, and I hope you join me. I am going to practice faces in watercolor. My goal is loose watercolor painting. I'm going to be using this Derwent paintbrush that I got with the Derwent metallic set, and I'm going to be using these, and the goal is just practicing loose faces and seeing what I can do. If you followed me yesterday, I used this palette. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a small brush with this, it's graphite. I start with Payne's Gray and it's wet on dry. So I'm using the wet watercolor, the watered down colors on dry paper, and I'm just mapping out the features. I do my faces a little bit different than other people. I just sort of go with the flow and start usually with the eyes and then map out the rest of it. I know these eyes are a little bit close together, but because I'm trying to go with the flow, I'm not going to try to fix it. It's really hard when you're painting or drawing to refrain or stop yourself from going in and going back and fixing what you perceive as mistakes. But as you move forward, you realize maybe those mistakes weren't mistakes after all and add character to the artwork. And I just keep pushing forward with this and work on the hair and see what's going to come next. The key for me is to let go. It's like all about letting go and letting go of trying to be perfect. And sometimes I get frustrated when I'm painting. I don't know if anyone else gets frustrated when they're painting, but sometimes I definitely get frustrated when I'm painting because even though I try to let go of perfection, it's almost like I want to be perfect. But I think some of the most interesting art is art that is imperfect and art that has sort of unique character to it. And I think the best way to do that is by trying to let go of control, which is very, very hard to do. It's always a challenge. Sometimes I'm doing videos and I think I get so frustrated. I get so frustrated. And so some of the most interesting art is art that isn't perfect. You need to keep that in mind and find out what it is that you love and do that regardless of what anyone else thinks. So yeah, I've seen a lot of watercolor videos that I enjoy, but then it can be very intimidating, right? Especially watercolor. Like if there's any medium that is about letting go of control, I would say it's watercolor, because it does its own thing and you kind of have to go with the flow. And now I'm squeezing. This thing has water in it, and if I squeeze, whoops, if I squeeze the water, like the brush, water just comes pouring out, which I don't mind. See what happens there. Oh, I didn't squeeze enough out. So sometimes it's fun. Like this is just exploring and seeing what you can create. Okay, so now I'm going back to the metallic watercolors that I have from Derwent, and I'm gonna maybe put some earrings on and see what I can do with her face there. And when you're painting just for fun, it really shouldn't be about giving yourself a hard time. And that's why I love painting, because I'm trying to sort of let go and just be in the moment, even though it can be frustrating. Okay, I think I'm going to use this. It's called Sunset, but it looks like a bronzy color. Oh, a little bit of running through there. Now, if you don't like the way it looks, you can actually, which normally I'm not big on erasing, but you can actually lift some of that off, which I'm going to do because I don't like the way that looks. So you can just like lift it off. That's another joy of watercolor too, is you can, let me show you, you can just lift the paint off if you don't like it. But then you don't want to get, for me personally, I don't want to get too caught up in lifting things off and doing it over and lifting it off and doing it over. But I did want her to have some nice earrings. So I'm going to give that a go. Try that again. And sometimes too, you could save your artwork and then look at it later to see how you've improved. I did a review of these in one of my previous videos of these paints, and I definitely find this a very nice shimmer here for this particular color. And remember, your art is for you. It is just for you to enjoy and not for you to give yourself a hard time. And the more you paint, the more you improve. I can't say that watercolor is my, I really enjoy it, but it's not actually my favorite. I would say acrylics are my favorite. However, practicing with watercolor and losing control of your paint is a really good exercise. And the more you practice with any kind of paint, the better you become. If you've seen my art, sometimes I struggle with restraint and not overdoing it. This is still wet, so I'm going to lie it flat and let it dry, and I'm going to see what I can do with that later. More often than not, when I put a painting down to dry, I end up not doing anything to it. I like it just the way it is. For this one, I'm going to set it aside, and now I'm going to try a different one. off the page, but I'm kind of liking the way this would work if I was doing it on a bigger canvas. I'm gonna leave this, even though I feel like it's not quite done. Maybe I'm not gonna leave it. Maybe I am. Hold on. Let's see what I can do. These are the final two faces. I added some gel pen just because I like the way the lines look on top of watercolor. And I did experience a little frustration, especially doing the one on the right. That was, I don't know why, it didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted, but I am happy with it, and I am going to be drawing again tomorrow. I want to thank you guys for joining me, and we'll see you again next time.